everybody. Welcome to Tip Talk TV. I'm your host, Tiffany Ramm, and welcome to the pilot of the show, Easier Said Than Done. This is the warm-up to the show. We're going to start here in about 5 minutes, but we're just going to test out our live feed, our camera angles, our lighting, and all of that good stuff. So bear with me while we go live for the first time for our pilot of the show, Easier Said Than Done. This is an interactive show, so I encourage you to join the YouTube live chat. We will answer your questions, address your comments and concerns all live during the show. In addition to, if you decide to comment later and it, rubs us the right way, we will answer your questions on a future show. So welcome to Tip Talk TV. Again, I'm your host, Tiffany Ramm, and I'm trying to see what we have going on here in our live. So let's see if you can see me, and more importantly, if you can hear me. So if you're joining me live now, please let me know if you can hear me well. And more importantly, if you can hear me. So if you're joining me live now, please let me know if you can hear me well. It looks like you can hear me well. So yes. Oh, perfect. Okay. Oh, you can see my little, let's just drop that out in the background right now. Like I said, we're going to start in about 5 minutes. So about 5:50 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That would be 7:50 in Central Standard Time. The reason we're going to start in about 5 minutes, I'm going to let you all warm up in the chat to the idea that today's show is called Easier Said Than Done. The concept of this show is that we all get advice throughout our lives from professionals, personal friends, family, and solicited, unsolicited advice. And this show is going to break down why some of that advice, or most of it, is easier said than done. And for some of that advice that actually makes sense, because a lot of it doesn't, we're going to break down myself, from a professional and a personal standpoint, break down that advice into like real actual action steps. So give me a moment while you all come in the chat, while we warm up, while I share the link on Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat. I'm also going to turn off this background noise. So give me just a second. I'm going to pop out and I will be right back for y'all. Yay! Thank you for bearing with me on this pilot. We're working out the live link situation. So again, don't forget to share the link so people can join us in the conversation, see what you're following. Please also don't forget to subscribe below. Oh my God, I love Minions. So this little guy, he probably needs to go down here because he'll distract me and make that noise. So the topic again today is easier said than done, dating. So I'm going to share this link out so people can join us in the conversation. And then we're just going to get right into the show, because I have found some sources, online dating sources, that have broken down some advice that is pretty typical dating advice, and almost all of it's easier said than done. And as someone who is new to the dating scene, I'll explain that to you in just a moment. This advice becomes very vague and sometimes useless, even though the people giving it think they're just giving you the most golden nuggets of all time. So let me share the link out, get you all in the conversation, and let's start having a live show. Yes, I'm sharing it with you all who need to get in the show. Also, people are going to be trying to text me throughout the show. I'm not going to know who it is. Right, because I didn't save all my iPad, so when I see them, I'm like, what is that? Cool. All right, so let's go share this on Facebook. I told people on Instagram to come join us, so hopefully they do, because I have a great following on Instagram. They like to conversate. So let me go share the links, and then I'll be back to you here on YouTube. Like I said, we're starting the show here in about 2 minutes. So in the meantime, if you're watching while I try to share out the link with people, please, please, please write your comments now. Have you gotten any dating advice? Would you like to give some dating advice to someone who's newly dating, who's fresh out of a relationship? What advice have you received? What advice have you given? That's the topic for today. And I would share it if I could find my Facebook link. Okay. I found it. So yeah, so today's topic again is easier said than done, advice that we get about dating. And if you have a question about dating, shoot it out. I'll answer it live. Happy to do that. And as well as, have you given dating advice? Do you find yourself a great matchmaker? What makes you a great matchmaker if you think you are one? And so on and so forth. So I would love to see your questions, comments, and concerns on the topic. If you are watching this later, recording and not live, still comment along because I'll answer those comments again later on. So let's see. Live now on YouTube. Ooh. Let's see, let's get us up and running. Post. We're getting started. We're just getting started. I promised people this a long time ago, so I just said, you know what? I am going to permanently move this show to Tuesdays, and let me explain why. I originally announced Thursdays because, because Thursdays was a day that was available in my schedule, or so I thought. But then I remember, for those of you who follow other shows that I do and I'm a part of, it's not giving me the other page. Just a second. I'm trying to share it on both my pages. There we go. That Mimi Dukes is a good friend of mine. I adore her. She has her own radio show as well, and her show is on Thursdays, and I never make it over there. And then I realized the day that I said I was going to have my show, it actually completely conflicts with her show time, and I'm like, well, friends don't do that to friends. And not that her, following is the same as mine, or that I would be stealing from her audience, but I just kind of found that disrespectful, and then it wouldn't allow me to be on her show. So this show will actually be either 5 to 6 or 6 to 7 on Tuesdays. So this is close to the time that I plan to have it at regularly on Tuesdays instead of Thursdays, so I can start trying to get over to Mimi's show and, support my friend. So that's the backstory to why the day is changing, and why it was important for me to change it. So again, I support my friends. We're all doing cool stuff, and I like to try to actually be there physically in person when I can. So shout out to Mimi. Her social media is Keeping Up with Mimi, or Keeping It Real with Mimi. I'm so sorry. Keeping It Real with Mimi, and she keeps it real. So definitely want to support her. Of course, you can probably hear my background noise. Uh-oh. Here we go. So putting the links up so people can try to join the conversation with us. And then I'll come back to you guys. Hopefully you started talking to me. I can't see you yet. I don't know what. Facebook be doing its own thing. I'll go check on that in a minute. Okay. So it's 5:52. Let's just get started. I'm hoping you're in this chat. I'm wondering if I can see the chat. I think I can. Are y'all chatting and I don't see you? Hold on. Let me make sure I'm not missing you. Let me check all my gizmos and gadgets. Here we go. Sorry. I didn't press my live chat. Y'all could be chatting in here. I wouldn't even know you were chatting. Oh, see, you were. I'm so sorry, Reggie. I see you, Reggie, Indiana. What's up? Ah, here we go. I'm getting my stuff together, y'all. That's what's happening. So I'm going to do the intro again for those of you who maybe have been holding in there while we've been getting our technology together. 5150 is the business. Actually, they're on Tuesdays too, and I know I'm not competing with them because we have a completely different audience. So that's okay. So a huge shout out to 5150, Corey Holcomb, Zoe Williams, and everybody else who's on that show. So yes, does technology actually make it easier or harder to date these days? I think it'd be harder. Ooh, that's a good question. I promise to get back to that, Reggie. So let's do the formal introduction, because I'll chop off that beginning part when I edit later for those folks who are not live with me right now. If you are live, please send a shout out into the chat because I'll acknowledge you. So Reggie, Indiana, I appreciate you. You're an amazing, amazing supporter. So let's do the official start and get started on the show. Welcome to Tiff Talk TV. Thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Tiffany Ramm, also known as Tiff Talk. I am your host, and you are watching Easier Said Than Done. Easier Said Than Done is a show that is dedicated to addressing all of the advice you get from either professionals, personal friends, family, or unsolicited advice from strangers. And we break it down. Why is it easier said than done? Because we get a lot of advice that don't make no dang sense. And nobody actually explains to us how to do it when they give the advice to us. So as a professional, I'm a trained therapist, mental health professional. I have over 10 years of experience in social service and direct practice with children all the way up to, the elderly. And in addition to just being a person who lives life. So my personal mantra is living life transparently, changing lives, starting with my own. And so that's why we're here. It's easier said than done. I'm going to give you the professional background to some of breaking down some of this advice that we get. And then I'm just going to give you my personal perspective as a person who lives life every day. So thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. And this week's topic is easier said than done, dating. And my personal background is I am 30 years old. I am recently divorced, and I have literally never dated before. And so dating is a new area for me. I have spent years giving advice about it, but actually never done it. Does that sound familiar to you? So interestingly enough, in regards to dating, my own personal experience, in addition to realizing there's tons of resources and a lot of them are saying a whole bunch of stuff that don't make no sense, or that's easier said than done. So what I did in trying to organize my ideas is I finally went online and checked out some of these online dating sites. There's so many dating blogs, your mind would explode when you're like, ooh, dating advice online. And I found one site specifically. Where did I find this? This was actually straight from, I think, eHarmony. That's why I took it from them. So it was actually a blog source from eHarmony that literally broke down 15 tips to finding love. It literally says, finding love, 15 behaviors to guide you there. And it's from an eHarmony blog. And, eHarmony is one of the biggest dating sites. I've actually considered maybe signing up just to see. I've actually had a few friends who have met their significant others that they eventually married on eHarmony. There's 2 friends I can think of off the top that have actually used eHarmony and now married to their mate that they met on eHarmony. So I was like, maybe I'll think about it. But I went to this blog and I found there, 15 tips to finding love. And what I realized is that this is very much in line with the advice we get every day as people who are single and dating. And it's so vague, or it's easier said than done, and there needs to be 15 action steps after these pieces of advice. So I just figured I'm going to break down for you why this advice just doesn't work for most people. Why is it so much easier said than done? And then you guys can chime in on the chat if you're like, right. So join in the conversation. I'm looking right now. Some of you are in the chat. And I just want you to really see, do you agree with me? Does this even make sense for real? Okay. So one of the pieces of advice that they said, number 1, was to allow yourself to take breaks from dating when necessary, but don't give up on your relationship goals. That is literally 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different steps. So you want me to know to take breaks when I'm overwhelmed and I think dating is stupid. But you also want me to know not to give up on my relationship goals. So the reason why this is so messy, why this is so much easier said than done, because 1, that insinuates you know what your relationship goals are. 2, it insinuates that they're even realistic, right? And then 3, your impulse to give up. Sometimes your impulse to give up is necessary. Cocoons are good, cocooning, taking time for yourself is good. And then knowing when to come back to dating, that is so vague. And then how long? How long of a break is okay? Okay. How long of a break is necessary? Necessary. Right? So this whole piece of advice in this blog is what? It sounds good, but what does that even mean? I don't know. I just think this is a good example of advice people give and you're like, huh? What? And relationship coaches give this kind of advice. So the follow-up statement says, this means having control of your impulses, not to give up when you're exhausted or whatever, and refusing to give up to urges to quit online dating after a few dates. So this one is a little more specific to online dating, again, which I have not done. But I could see how online dating, very much similar to real dating, is overwhelming when you keep trying and trying and you get the same result, which is not finding a mate. So I think that's just what this really is breaking down is delayed gratification. 1, make sure you have a real goal in mind. Is your goal just to find an actual lifetime long mate and be monogamous? Or is your goal just to find a fun fling? Or is your goal just to find something in between? And figure that out before you start the process. Because it gets really mucky, and a lot of us do this. We don't really know what the goal is. We say we're okay with just having a fling when really we want a boyfriend or girlfriend, and now we get mad when the fling doesn't want to be the boyfriend or girlfriend, not their fault really. Because you didn't really know or make clear what the intention was. So step 1 is make it clear what your intention is, or 2, this is my thing when I give advice. It's okay not to know. If you just know, like, I don't want to be alone, and that's all you got so far, just be honest with yourself that that's all you got so far. I know I don't want to be alone, and so I'm going to go try this thing where I don't be alone. If that makes any sense. Because a lot of times we talk about really concrete things when we're not as concrete as we think. Our emotions are ever changing and ever moving, and so the more honest you are with how unsure you are, the better. Does that make more sense? The more honest you are with how unsure you are. Some of us don't really know, but we want to start the process. So have a clear goal. If you have a clear goal, make it known, write it down, or say it out loud, or affirm it in one way or another. And then 2, don't give up on it. You know, take a break if you need to, but come back to your goal. Like any goal, not just relationship goals. But also give yourself grace. If you're not sure what you want, just know that and be honest about it. So that first one's so much easier said than done. It's like layers of why that piece of advice just doesn't work, and they just throw it up in a blog, and now someone's reading it like, what? Hi there. I'm going to acknowledge some people in the chat really quick. I see Alan Cooper. What's up, Alan? I see Reggie, Indiana. And Reggie asked a good question. I will come back to the list because it's right in front of me. I can always come back to it. But Reggie asked a good question because we're talking about online dating. He's asking, does technology actually make it easier or harder to date these days? I think it'd be harder. My personal opinion from my perspective is that if anything, it's made it easier, actually, but it depends on your personality. So for me, technology has made it easier because, you know, you have a lot more variety and options and ways to stay in contact. And that's nice for me because then I know, like, okay, I'm not just limited to my close proximity, right? Because sometimes then you feel like your pool is limited because you're like, well, if it's just the people close to me, you know. But now that the proximity is an issue, now I know the dating pool is more open, it makes you feel like you have a lot more options. Now, some people, if you don't have impulse control, which unfortunately is a lot more people than they'd like to admit, it's actually made dating harder because too many choices, choice saturation, has caused people to be overwhelmed. I have too much choice, how do I make a choice, or too much access. You know, so me, I just like a little acknowledgement, and I tell people that, like, just a text, hey, what's up during the day, or, you know, and like good night is really all I really need while we're dating. I might give you a little more or a little less based on your personality or how much I'm feeling you, but technology hasn't actually made it harder for me to date. Again, this is my first time, and I'm very self-aware, but I really feel like if you have a good sense of self, it definitely shouldn't make it harder. If anything, it should make it way easier. Now, again, if you're a person who really struggles with impulse control, it's going to make it very difficult because you're going to feel the impulse to just kind of like engage everybody and everything. That's going to become very distracting for you. But if you're someone who kind of is at least able to handle choices, then it should only make it easier because, again, a proximity is going to be eliminated and the ways in which you can communicate are actually increased. So it should actually increase your ability to date more effectively because you have more options on how to communicate. But again, that's a personal side. The professional side is I understand a lot of people are very overwhelmed. They don't have good impulse control, and the amount of choices is making it really overwhelming for people. It's saturating the market. It's making people overstimulated, and therefore it's taking a lot more for them to be stimulated during dating. So those are some of the downfalls to technology. But if you actually are a self-aware person, technology should actually make dating easier for you. It's easy to cheat after making your choice. So this show is definitely not about cheating at all. There might be another show about that, but this is specifically in regards to dating, like how to date. Or like when leaving a previous relationship, how long you should wait before you date, that. But this is not at all about cheating, so I don't want this show to get hijacked like often it does on other shows that I'm on. But yeah, I will keep that in mind, Reggie, for another show. I don't know what you mean by gray. If you're in the gray zone, I think if you're in the gray zone where you're not sure how you feel, saying that is enough. Saying, hey, I'm in transition. I'm not really sure what I'm looking for. If that's okay with you, we can proceed. And if it's not, now's a good time to end. And that's what I advocate for in communication, is just communicate. If you don't know how you feel, just communicate you don't know how you feel. Now, if the other person says, ooh, I can't handle that, then they just need to acknowledge I can't handle it, and it's their choice to then leave or stay, be like, okay, I get you don't know, you're figuring it out, I'm willing to, you know, feel through that with you. But yeah, if the guy is like, I want to be with you, and you're like, well, I don't know, that's his choice to either stay until you figure it out, or it's his choice to leave. And you both have to be enough adults to acknowledge that. But again, still easier said than done. It's implying you both are adults to handle that enough. In most cases, it's not. Usually, if you're someone who's able to articulate your gray zone, you might be with someone who is not able to handle that. So just know that being a good communicator does not always attract other good communicators. Yes. Let's see. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything on the chat. Hey, Aaron, I'm going to acknowledge you. Yeah, I think a lot of people say that technology has made flings easier and not dating. I think technology makes anything easier that you want or are looking for. So if all you were ever looking for is flings, that's all you're going to find. If you were looking for relationships, that's what you're going to find. Again, relationships are very much a mirror of who you are and what you're doing. So if you only find yourself finding flings, maybe you should take a moment to reflect and be like, is that all I'm looking for? Is that all I'm projecting? Is that all my behavior is projecting? So again, this show is all about easier said than done. That's a hard place to be at, for you to be able to have that self-reflection and realize, like, okay, I'm online and I'm only ever getting flings. What does that say about me? What are you attracting? What are you putting out that keeps attracting flings? Because there is certain, there's certain information you put out, certain ways you engage people online that attracts flings. And there's another way you present yourself in which, attracts relationship. So just know it's not necessarily the technology, it's the person using the technology. So I like it though. You all are on point. Definitely. Awesome. Good. So let's jump to number 2. I think we made it that far. You do more. Okay, so number 2 on this blog, it's from eHarmony, like I said, says you do more than simply show up for dates. You engage, share, contribute, try, and be present. First and foremost, if someone has to tell you this in like a dating blog, you're losing already at the game. If someone has to tell you how to engage and be successful in a date is to show up, engage, share, contribute, try, and be present, you're behind already. Now, easier said than done, I get it, because I know there's a lot of girls, and, well, I know specifically there's a lot of girls, and especially because I'm in LA, that are going on dates for free meals and free stuff. I get it. They just are like, you're Thursday night, I want to eat tonight, you're taking me out, cool. They're on their phone the whole time. I get it. I hear it all the time. They're on their phone all the time. They're not engaged. They're not present. Try for one time, if your issue is they're on their phone all the time, to very, very, non-discreet, very conspicuously put your phone away also. So they're really up in their phone, because what happens, what I notice even myself, if someone else is really up in their phone and I'm kind of annoyed about it, I just realize I just get on mine too. Well, you ain't paying attention, so I'm not going to pay attention. The reverse that's more effective is make it blatantly obvious you're only paying attention to them. So this is my little tip about dating and phone use. I made a quote and they memed it recently. Someone wrote me about it that I said, I don't post a lot. You all probably don't. If you follow me on Instagram, you know I'm very active. I have a good following, but I don't post what you would think. I'm not snapping and posting on Instagram and every single thing I do throughout the day, and I do some really cool stuff. Like today I produced an interview for, oh my gosh, Mario Van Peebles and his daughter Morgana Van Peebles. Those are big names in Hollywood, right? Produced that interview. I haven't even posted any pictures about it today. I haven't even made that far in my day yet to just be. And so my point was, what they memed and what they captured was that I said, I'm more interested in living life than capturing life. My focus is being present, living life. Living life to its fullest, not about capturing my life to the fullest. So if you're in a date and you feel like someone is too engaged in their phone, one thing you can do is make it very blatantly obvious. What I do is I take my phone, I literally put it face down. I put it on silent, I put it face down. And this isn't like a cheater thing. Some people are like, oh, you cheat, you don't want me to see. No, especially when you're dating, it sends a very blatant signal to your person. Don't put it in your pocket, don't put it in your purse. Literally, if you think they're on their phone too much, take your phone, put it face down on silent on the table so they can see it. And then put your hands down or keep eating and look straight at them and just keep talking. Ask them questions or do whatever. And it's going to become very engaging and very obvious to them that you're making that time your focus. And once you do that, you'll see the dynamic of the date change immediately. They can only handle your eyes on them so long before they're like, you're looking at, you asked me a question. Oh, you want to know what I think? Oh, and they're going to put their phone down. Now, if they don't, get up and walk right out that date. But if they're even a semi-decent, aware, self-conscious human being, they're going to put their phone down too, and they're going to start engaging you. So that's my little tidbit. If they don't put their phone down within a minute, 2 minutes, they're not paying attention at all, oh, you need to leave, because you're not the focus of their attention at all anyways. You're not even on a date with them. They're just getting free meal. So that's my little tip about technology and dating. But anyway, so it says you need to do more. You need to engage. If you're going on a first or second date, for sure, make sure that you're present and there with them, because first impressions do make a difference. And we all have off days, so your mood might be a little off. You know, you might have had a bad day at work, but you agreed to go on this date or whatever. Just make sure you try to woosah and engage them to the best of your ability. You can be present that day. I have learned to try to give people a second chance. I'm not really good at it. Like, if I don't vibe with you on the first date, I usually just am like, ooh, no second date. But everybody has off days. So my whole goal is I usually give people 2 dates, 2 to 3 dates. And then if by the third date I'm like, ooh, like nothing's clicking, then I say goodbye. But everybody has off days. You gotta get in the zone. You have to be in a mindset to share about yourself, in a mindset to engage. So make sure that you're doing these things. You're in the mindset to engage, to share. You have to be willing to share something about yourself. They ask you questions, you ask them questions. To contribute, you know, if they're talking about a subject and you know something about it, chime in. Try and be present. Obviously, yeah, there's some cases where your friends gonna text you like, oh my God, something's going down. Like, life happens, you know, that's what I say. Like, happens, life happens. Things actually do happen. You might really get called away for work or whatever. If those things happen, you know, just politely excuse yourself. You don't have to make it all dramatic and like, oh my gosh. The more dramatic you make it, the more fake it looks, no matter how real it is. So just try to, you know, if you have to acknowledge your phone, acknowledge your phone. But if you can keep your phone away, keep your phone away. But yeah, that one's not actually easier said than done. It just seems like common sense to me. Like, if someone needs to write that in a vlog for you to understand it, no wonder you're losing at dating. You know? So that's how I feel personally. Yes, so let me see if I'm missing anybody in here. The phone is definitely a security blanket for a lot of people, because even me, I do have the thing where I'm like, girl, I don't know about this date, call me in 25 minutes in case I need to get out of here. We all do it, especially as a woman. If I'm getting creepy like you a molester vibe, I'm gonna have a safety plan. Like, I'm having an escape plan. We all do it. So, you know, I'm not against having a safety plan for women. Like, make sure you have a friend that follows your GPS. My best friend and both my best friends actually follow. I share my GPS with them. And I'll tell them when I'm going on a date, because I'll, you know, make sure I get home at night, okay? So those things I believe in, but yeah, for a lot of people it's a security blanket, as in it's an excuse to why you didn't hear something or why you weren't all the way engaged. No, put that phone down. If you're really looking for the new person of your dreams, they want to get to know you, so put the phone down. Get to know them. You give potential partners a true chance. This is so much easier said than done, okay? It says, this may mean you go on multiple dates with the same person, even if the first date wasn't perfect. Like I just said, I've had to fight this myself. It's so hard to, like, you basically are making yourself going on a second date. You're like, oh, I didn't really like the first one. Making yourself go on a second or third date, it's almost painful, because I like to be excited. I'm a very excitable person. And so when I like you, like, I like you. Like, I've been told my mama and my best friend, and I texted it and I tweeted it. Like, I might not say your name, but I'd be like, ooh, new crush today. You know, like, I'm very excitable. So if I'm really not feeling you the first time, that gets me down in advance, and I have to hype myself up to go out with you for the second or third date. There's someone right now where, like, I'm really not excitable about him, and we've been dating for a while. I wouldn't say a while. And I don't even know if I would call it dating. But we've been seeing each other, and we've been spending time together, and it's been over a month. And I'm not excitable. I wouldn't say I'm on fire for him, but I am genuinely intrigued by this human being. Oh my God, am I intrigued? Like, you know, when he asked me to spend time with him, I'm like, yeah, I'm coming over. You know, like, let's kick it. But I'm not necessarily excitable like I'm used to being for some people. So getting past that, like, ooh, the first date wasn't that good, but pushing to the second or third, in this one experience, I will say, it wasn't bad. Like, I pushed to the second, third, fourth, and I'm realizing you have to. It is definitely easier said than done to give people a chance, but also to change behaviors. What I realized from this new interaction is that this person is so much different than anybody I've ever dated or been with or been in a relationship with. And that's why it feels so uncomfortable and feels so different, because it's different. And so where some people would say, you don't need to force it. Dating advice people give all the time, don't force it if it doesn't feel right, just, move along. Well, that's the problem. That's where we get stuck, like the girl who dates the same kind of guy, is because the same thing feels comfortable and then different feels uncomfortable. What I realize is this guy is so different. That's why there's moments where I'm just like, ooh, that's different. Ooh, that's different. Oh, that's different. And I've been telling my friend, I'm like, there's just moments where it's just like, it's so different, but that's the beauty in it. And I'm trying to change, right? I'm not trying to date the same person over and over and over again. I'm trying to break cycles, and that's going to be moments of discomfort. So you have to do what this says. You give the potential partner a true chance, and that's something you have to fight inside yourself, and it's way easier said than done. Like I said, I'm not necessarily excitable about this person, but I'm genuinely intrigued. He is so intriguing to me. He's just so smart, and like everything about our interaction with each other is so different than any other relationship I've ever had. And like I said, pretty much every time we deal with each other, like spend time together, I like walk away with like, huh? And my mentor, my friend, good friend, my life mentor, like, he was like, I think you like him. And I was like, I don't know if I do. Like, I couldn't even say out loud until maybe a day or two ago. Then I told my best friend, like, okay, yeah, I do like him. I think I like him. I'm not even sure that's how different he is, and how much I've had to push past my norm. Like, I don't know. I didn't know if I like him, y'all. So that piece of advice is so much easier said than done, because to break your cycle, it's going to be uncomfortable and it's going to be weird. So to take, give potential partners a true chance, I'm like, what? Ugh, I don't know if I like how that feels. It doesn't feel good, you guys. But do it. But it's way easier said than done. What that means for me, what it actually looks like in real life, is I process it. I'm a verbal processor. So, I'll call my homegirl and be like, he said this and we did that, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then I don't know, that's weird. And she'll be like, it sounds weird. I don't know. And she'll say why it's weird and it's so much different than, anything she's experienced or anything I've experienced. And I'll be like, yeah, it is different. And I'll have to acknowledge, once we say it out loud, like, oh yeah, that is different. To me right now, difference is actually good, right? I'm coming out of a really messed up, weird, 10-year-long thing, right? And so different from that's actually probably really good. And so anytime I acknowledge me and her being like, yeah, that's really different, that's weird, I don't know, is where I acknowledge, I'm like, oh, that's probably good. Yeah, that's probably good. Yeah, that's probably good. And then I kind of just let it simmer. And then I just try the next hangout, So it's not easy, and it's definitely going to be uncomfortable. To give a new partner a chance, it's very uncomfortable, because it also means you have to become vulnerable. And as much as I'm an oversharer, and I share on The Voice of Reason, I share, so I'm a very oversharer on that show, but I tell people I overshare superficially. The stuff that I talk about, even though it's taboo on that show, is stuff that I say to everybody. I can tell someone in the grocery store that stuff. Like, it's no big deal to me. But my real insides, like my real feelings, like feelings, y'all, I don't just share my feelings with anybody. So if you get me to start sharing my feelings, I'm going to be highly uncomfortable. And that shows a level of engagement with you that I don't give to everybody. So it's going to be uncomfortable trying to find a new partner. And that's what I've realized is weird about dating, when you actually realize, like, that's when it gets uncomfortable, when you're like, ooh, I'm letting you in. I don't know if I want to let you in. You're going to get uncomfortable. So just know that's why some of this advice is so much easier said than done, because it includes a little portion, well, a huge portion of being vulnerable. And we don't want to be vulnerable. It feels uncomfortable. Let's see. Yeah, GPS is great. For parents, too, if you have teenagers that are dating, I would just tell them, like, I own this phone. I pay the bill, right? No, but to be honest, it's about safety. And, just to know where you are, and if you're supposed to be a certain place at a certain time, that you're there. And so I tell my, when I went to Dubai, my family was terrified. They were like, what? Share your location, text us when you land, where you're going, what you're doing every day, like, because they were like, you're going out of the country with a man that none of them had met before. Like, I had done business and known this man for 2-3 years, but none of them had actually met him. Oh, wait. 2 of my friends had actually met him. But other than that, nobody knew him. And so they're like, you know, he's taking you to Africa, to Kenya and Dubai. Like, that's a big deal. So yeah, I shared all my locations. I shared what I was doing with them, where I was going. Actually, my mom and my best friends made me text them my copies of my airplane tickets and itinerary, as well as his and his ID. They were like not playing, y'all. So safety first always. And that wasn't even romantic. That was an actual business trip, like a business trip / vacation, but they were not playing with that. So safety first, definitely safety first. Let's see, you take emotional risks and allow yourself to be vulnerable. I just touched point on that. That's what number 4 is on this list. And then it says believing being vulnerable is weak is a problematic perception. In fact, love, connection, and intimacy are all based on vulnerability. Bonus, you understand that being vulnerable does not mean oversharing or moving too quickly. It's about developing trust over time. So number 4 got me all the way, because I actually tell people that because I'm an oversharer, men specifically tend to feel really safe and comfortable with me right away, and then trust me and get attached very quickly. And the issue with that is I warn people. I say I overshare superficially. This is not stuff that I just don't tell other people. Like, I talk about this on the radio all the time, but it happens almost all the time. They take my oversharing as, you know, me being vulnerable with them, so then they overshare and be vulnerable with me, and now they're attached. And I'm like, wait, I'm not equally attached. And so that's where I've, you know, if you watch the other shows that I'm on, Voice of Reason, so it said, you know, you're a black widow, because they'll get attached way more quickly than I do, and now I'm breaking your heart because I'm like, I'm not interested. I don't want to be monogamous with you. I'm not interested in a relationship with you. And they're already like all in, you know what I'm saying? So that's where you have to be careful in dating a little bit. And this is where I say be careful. Know if you're an oversharer that does what I do, that is oversharing, and people get, you know, basically falsely attached to you because of that. So and I try to be a little better about that. I give the disclaimer up top, and it still doesn't slow people down. And so that's why I said also be very transparent. Before my divorce was final, I told people, like, I want to think I'm ready for a relationship, but I don't think I am. Like, until my divorce is final, I'm not really taking anything too serious. I want love, but I just know I'm not ready. And so I would give that disclaimer, in addition to I'm an oversharer that attracts, you know, false security and vulnerability, and I break people's hearts. I would tell people that, and it wouldn't stop anybody. So so just trying to be transparent, trying to be honest, but just know sometimes it's going to happen regardless. But for me, on the flip side, why it's easier said than done, being vulnerable is really hard. And the more times you've been vulnerable before and hurt, the harder your surface is, the harder your shell is to crack. And so you need to be willing to loosen your own shell and to make yourself vulnerable, because the only way you're going to find the love that you want is to give the love that you want. Now, don't just give it to anybody. This is the easier said than done part, the balance. A lot of people give out love thinking they're going to get it in return, and sometimes you attract abusers instead because they see you as over vulnerable. They see you as a victim. So you have to find this balance, the easier said than done part, between being vulnerable enough to attract what you want, but not being so vulnerable you look like a victim and you're attracting user types. So, and also don't see being vulnerable as a weakness. Being vulnerable is actually a strength. It takes a very strong person to put themselves out there over and over again. So that's what I'm experiencing. I until the divorce was final, I wasn't that, you know, in it for dating. I wasn't that dedicated to being vulnerable and like really giving myself to someone new, because I didn't know if my ex was just gonna come back and try to get me. You know, like, not saying I wanted him back or I would take him back, but it was like I didn't know if he was gonna try to throw that kink in my wheel. And I didn't want to do that to someone, have them fall in love with me, and then my husband come back like, oh my goodness, you know. So so now that it's final, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna be open and vulnerable to this process. But it's definitely easier said than done, and being vulnerable is actually a strength. So just acknowledge that, realize it's easier said than done, but to be strong enough to put yourself out there. Let me see if you guys have comments. Reggie Indiana is asking, what advice would you give my daughter as she starts to date in a couple of years? We are driving home from practice, so she's a captive audience. All right. So, especially to young ladies, my advice really to young ladies dating in general is know your boundaries and say them right away. What I mean is, I'm sorry if you don't want me to go this route, but sexually or otherwise. So a lot of people talk about sex or abstinence, but they don't realize that you really have to define everything in between. And if you don't define it, boys will push it. And same thing with women. If you don't define the boundary, people will push your boundary. So what I mean is, abstinence means different things to everybody. So for some people, abstinence means I only hold hands, I kiss and I hold hands, I rub and I hold hands and I kiss. Like, you define your boundary and you say it and you stick to it. So if you're like, nope, I'm not having sex until whenever, make sure you make that very clear, but make sure you define what all the other stuff is right up top, because otherwise they're going to push it. Like, well, you didn't say I couldn't do this, you didn't say I couldn't do this, you didn't say. So whether it's sexual activity boundaries or even dating boundaries, you know what, my curfew's this, so I'm only going to do these kind of dates. You have to have me home by this time. I tell everybody, young ladies and otherwise, make your boundaries, make them clear, and make them known very early on. When I was young, my parents were super, super strict. I promise you. I don't think there was more strict parents, and I didn't even fight it because I was an anxious child. So my curfew was 10 p.m. until I graduated from high school. Not lying. And I worked and I did extracurricular activities and everything. If I had to go after 10 o'clock, I had to have special permission. The only times I had curfew extensions was till midnight on junior and senior prom. So I had super, super strict parents. And I didn't fight it because I realized I really wasn't missing anything. What are kids doing after 10 p.m.? Drinking, smoking weed, having sex. Like, no offense, not to bust your bubble. I know you're going to hate me, little girl, but I love you. And if you're allowed to stay up past 10, awesome. Be responsible. But I just realized there wasn't a lot of good stuff going on after 10. I don't feel like I missed anything. But I would tell people I dated, like, nope, my curfew's 10 p.m. They'd be like, you know, you can sneak out. You can do it. No, my curfew's 10 p.m. If you can't respect that, you ain't going to work in my family system anyways. You can't respect these rules. You can't respect me. You can't respect my parents. That's the problem. So determine your boundaries for yourself first. Don't let someone else determine them for you. Don't get swayed by a boy like he likes you, but he makes out with every girl, but I don't want to make out, but I like him, so do I need to make out? No. Never sacrifice your own morals and values for someone else, and it's never a good ending. So make your boundaries clear to yourself, and then make them very clear to whoever you're involved with right away. And especially if it's breaking rules, if someone asks you to break the rules when you're young, no, that's not going to work out. Sneaking out and not respecting your rules or your parents' rules and boundaries, that's not it. That's not love. I promise you, that's not love. That's adolescent impulses. And again, like, nothing that great happens after 10 p.m. Even now as an adult, I'm like, I could be asleep right now, cuddling with my cat, and you want me to do what? So make your boundaries clear to yourself first, and then whoever you're dating, make them very clear to them too. Yeah, so that's really what I say to all young people. I don't often get a chance to share my background, but yes, I was actually a high school social worker for 3 years, elementary school social worker. Before that, I was a teen clinic social worker and sex educator for 3 years. So my niche is actually teens and adolescents. And so that's what I tell all young people. It's very hard to determine your boundaries, but figure them out first before you start engaging with other people. Because if you didn't determine your boundaries first, it's very easy to let the other people determine them for you. And the same thing, even not dating, but your friends. Don't let your friends determine your boundaries and your goals and your activities and your likes. You determine what your boundaries are first, and then it's easier for you to tell your friends yes or no. I said I like to use I was a very anxious kid, so it worked out. I had really strict parents, because I tell people to this day, I would just use my parents as an excuse. They would ask me to go to keggers and parties and stuff, and I'd be like, my mom said no, sorry. I didn't even ask my mom. I just was like, I didn't want to go. That was too stressful for me. I'm an anxious kid. I'm the only black kid in my community. I don't know what they're going to do to me. Get me drunk and do what? I don't know. I'm not trying to get lynched, y'all. You don't know the community I lived in. So, no, I was too anxious for all that. I just said, my mama said no, and I went home. Like, I'm not doing it. So, determine your own boundaries, and makes it easier to say no to stuff that's questionable or that's not within your moral values or your parents' values. So, that's that. No problem. Yeah, so I'm just glad to put that out there, because I know adults struggle with that too. Men and women, you let the other person dictate what your boundary is, and then you find yourself in compromising positions, or later on you realize you regret it later. You didn't make it clear. You went farther than you planned, and now you feel icky about it. And you can't take that icky back. You can't. As someone who's been in those positions more times than I would like to say, it's not a good feeling to realize you went past a boundary and you didn't even know that was a boundary. So do some soul searching, figure out what your boundary is, and then make it very clear. And I do the same thing now that I'm an adult and I'm so confident and assured of myself. I make it known. Your daughter's listening, but hopefully she knows like my background, like sex addiction and stuff like that. People hear sex and they think nasty, hoe, freak, you have no limits. I'm like, ooh, no, ew. There's still germs, there's still cooties, and I still got a limit. Doesn't mean I'm dirty, doesn't mean I just do all this foul stuff. I'm still, at my core, I'm a respectable woman, so I know what my boundaries are. I make them very clear up top what I do and don't do. And if you don't roll with it, you don't roll with it. I'm not offended, you know? So I have plenty of suitors, I have plenty of options. I'm not afraid to be alone. So I make my boundaries very clear up top, boom. And, you know, people can take it or leave it. But again, because of my openness and how I am on social media and the shows that I'm on, people do come with preconceived notions, and that's why I just make my boundaries very clear right away, because otherwise they'll try to push them. They have all these assumptions of who I am or what I do or don't do, and I let you know right up top. So that's all really good information, hopefully for everybody. And you're welcome. Let's see. This blog, let's see how much time do I have. I have 20 minutes, y'all, because I'm trying to keep the show to an hour or less. So, dating easier said than done. This number 5 says, you believe in authenticity. You don't hide who you are. Disown the qualities you aren't proud of, or change who you are based on someone else's wishes. This is so much easier said than done, but probably one of the most important pieces of advice. One, believe in authenticity. To believe in authenticity, you need to be authentic yourself. And I am going to be so honest. This is probably one of the number one issues in LA, is that people are fake and don't even know they're fake. They've been faking it so long, they believe their fakeness. And I believe this is what happened with my ex-husband, that he'd been faking the funk so long, he didn't know what the difference between reality and the truth was. And then here I hit him with, I know the truth, and he's like, I'm like, how you gonna lie to me when I know? I printed out the statements to the credit cards. I had the balances in a spreadsheet. You know, I have the evidence in front of me, and he's still gonna lie straight to my face. I'm like, baby, are you okay? Like, you want me to pretend I don't know you're lying? So, and I asked him that. I was like, do you want me just to pretend I don't know you lied straight to my face just now? And he blew up. He was like, what? And so being authentic and believing in authenticity is really hard nowadays, especially, again, I'm in LA. It's a very special little bubble to be in, because a lot of people aren't authentic themselves. So to expect you to believe in authenticity is hard because you're not being authentic yourself. So of course you're not going to believe someone else is being authentic with you because you know you're faking. So step 1, if you want to have an authentic relationship, you need to be authentic, which means you need to know yourself first. That's easier said than done. What does that even mean? Who you are when the lights are off, no makeup on, by yourself. Weirdly enough, a lot of girls in LA don't spend a lot of time with themselves. They're terrified to. So they don't know who they are because they've never spent time with themselves. So to believe in authenticity, you need to be authentic, right? And then you can attract other authentic people. So you don't hide who you are. Well, that's like step 1 for a lot of people dating. Like, we present the best parts of ourselves, like our representative. That's the joke, right? The ongoing joke with dating is, you're dating my representative. Well, if we stop playing that game, of course you're going to present the best part of yourself, but could we like maybe take out the lying part, the over-exaggeration part, the projecting who we want to be part, and actually just come with who I am right now? So to believe in authenticity, you have to be authentic, and then we have to define what authentic means. Can you be yourself right now walking into a date? And if you can't, you have to take a moment to be self-reflective and say, what in me am I insecure about that I don't feel comfortable presenting my real self in this date right now? Self-reflection is the part that will get you during dating. Like, oh wait, why do I feel like I have to pretend I have more money? Why do I feel like I need to talk about my goals instead of what I'm doing right now? Why do I feel like I need to... Don't do all that. I'll tell people, like, this is what I work. This is why I work. This is what I'm doing right now. What I'm doing right now is supposed to be for this thing I plan to do in the future. This is why I want to do this in the future. Like, I'd be very real about my situation right now. Like, I live in a studio, like, less than 500 square feet in LA. It works very well for me and my budget and my lifestyle, and I don't front about it at all. I drive a very modest car, and I don't front about my situation at all. At all. I'm like, I'm not rich. I'm working to establish wealth, but I'm not rich. And I don't front to be rich. I don't wear all these designer things or whatever. I have some nice things. Most of them were gifts. But I don't front because I'm like, to be authentic, I need to be myself, and this is who I am right now. Now, I can tell you who I plan to be, but right now, this is who I am. And as soon as you can do that, the more you're going to attract other authentic people to you. But it's probably one of the hardest things because we're all, again, so socialized to really lie. But then we're mad that people are lying. Like, stop. So yeah, let me see. Am I missing anything? Being real weeds out all of the fakers. It's the best way. Yeah, again, but it's easier said than done because a lot of people don't realize they're faking as well, which is why you're attracting other fakers. If one of your number one complaints is all these girls is fake, maybe you fake too. Why do you think they keep faking to you? Probably because you're faking to them. Relationships are mirrors, right? So don't hide who you are. Disown the qualities you aren't proud of. Again, don't disown the qualities you aren't proud of. That's what makes you stronger in dating, to be honest about where you're weak. Right now, I know I really have a lot of damage from my past relationship, but I don't actually even know what it is yet. I don't know what my triggers are. I realized really early on in dating, because my ex was so controlling over his phone. Literally, we're together for 10 years. I've never had any of his email passwords. I've never had his phone password. I've never literally had access to anything as his wife. It got to the point in our relationship where if my phone went dead, he would hand me a charger cord instead of just let me use his phone. Like, if my phone went dead, I was just like, hey, babe, I need to call my mom. He'd be like, here's a charger. That's how bad it was with his situation. And weirdly enough, I never even challenged it until the last year of our marriage, until things started just not making sense. And so what I realize now is if a guy is we're on a date and his phone rings and he kind of does it, hides it, that's a trigger for me. I'm like, ooh, what's going on? I didn't even know it was a trigger until it happened. And then I had to be aware within myself, wait, that's not him. That's his business. We're fresh and new. That could be another girl. It doesn't even matter because we're just on our first date. Who cares? Or that could be his mama, and I don't know him like that, so why do I need to know it's his mama? But I didn't even know it was a trigger until that happened. And so that's what I've really been honest about while dating. Be like, you know what? I'm coming out of a rough situation, and I'm not even actually aware yet of what the triggers are. So just know I'm going to articulate them to you when they come up. I'm going to try to, work through it. But I am, I have some wounds, and I'm not even sure what they are. And that's what I feel is unfair about the dating situation for me right now is until they happen, I don't even know what they are. And it sucks. It really sucks. So, but that's part of the discovery. Don't try to disown the qualities that you're not proud of. I'm not proud of the fact that I probably have some trust issues. I want to trust, I do, but I just know coming from where I am, I'm a little tense on the outside. I'm hyper vigilant. And so just owning that up front, listen, I just came from this jacked up situation. So, I'm gonna try to be the best me I can be, but I'm working on it, So that's where I am. And that's where I feel a lot of people should be. Instead of trying to shove it down, no, I don't got trust issues. As you're sneaking over and look at his phone, just own it. Yeah, I'm coming from a bad situation or a few bad situations, but I'm working on it. Don't make an excuse oh, because I've been cheated on before, I need to do a passcode. Be no, listen, I'm coming from a situation where, yeah, I was cheated on. I want to trust you. I'm trying to leave that alone. I might ask for it in the future, but right now I'm just acknowledging I struggle with it. You know what I mean? But on the first date, no, you do not have a right to nobody's passcode on the first date. Get your life together. And own that's a you thing, not a him thing. That's a you thing. So just own that. Or change who you are based on someone else's wishes. Please don't change yourself based on someone else's wishes, especially early on. Unless you have a few months or years in there, and they maybe say hey, this action you do makes me feel highly disrespected. Could you not do that? You put that through your lens of how does that affect you? How does that affect them? And you make a choice to change then. If it's fresh early in a relationship, I don't really think, unless it's something that really needs to change in your life, hey, you don't ever flush the toilet. Could you maybe do that? Unless it's something like that where okay, that just makes sense. I should probably flush the toilet more. That's gross. Something like that. You know, trying to be mindful of like who and what you change for and why. If it's something that kind of just makes sense to change in general and that can help you in any relationship, cool, change it. But don't just go changing stuff because someone asks. Sometimes that can become an unhealthy balance in a relationship. So just be mindful of that. And again, easier said than done, because a lot of the advice falls in a gray zone, and you're like, how do I manage this? When in doubt, send it through a filter, through a trusted person, for sure. Like me or Zoe Williams, we won't lead you astray. Like sometimes we fall on ratchet jokes, but really like we both give very sound advice. We take our helping profession very serious. Let me see if there's any comments in here that I need to address. Not so far. Okay, I think I've addressed them all so far. How much time do I have? I have 10 minutes. Okay. We're only halfway through this list, but I hope through listening through it, like easier said than done. Like dating is a mess out here, you guys. And I'll take maybe like 5 minutes at the end to address like some of the issues I've had out here. You work on yourself and participate in okay. This is the piece of advice where I'm like, listen, people need to stop giving this advice without action steps. Okay, so you work on yourself and participate in self-discovery and reflection. We tell people all the time, spend time with yourself, find you, be comfortable being alone, all that junk, right? I'm gonna say it. You remain open to learning about yourself as you date. You reflect on what's working well for you and what needs improvement without shaming or judging yourself. You're willing to learn from your hardships and miserable dating experiences. Listen, all of this participate in self-discovery and reflection. Just get some worksheets. Like, legit, okay? People say this so vaguely, and you're like, what you mean self-discovery? Like, go do some yoga, meditate. What does that look like? Like, I'm a very tangible person. You give me that hogwash without some action steps, I'll be like, so what? You know, like Zoe's always like, just be. I hate that piece of advice, although the best piece of advice ever, and because he knows I'm trained in mindfulness, like, he knows what that triggers for me, and I know what just be means for me. But for a lot of us, we're like, what? Just self-discovery? So, like, I know what kind of movies I like. I know what activities I like. Like, what you mean? Listen, if you're like that, and this advice is just upsetting to you when people say it, like how it is for me sometimes, get a worksheet. Literally, like, get a worksheet. Start a journal. And I hate when people say journal, because you're like, why am I supposed to journal? Start right there. Like, what went well in the date, what went wrong, and why. Just every time you go on a date, write those few things down or make a voice journal of it. And after every few dates, check it out. Look at it. Legit. Like, I'm giving you this exercise. And see, you might start seeing a rhythm. Like, the same things make you upset or the same things make you happy or whatever. And you're probably going to find some patterns in there that you weren't really aware of before. And some of it might be you, and some of it might be them. And then you can make adjustments based on that data. But like Tone Talks, if you all follow him, he's all about the data. That's how you get it sometimes. You know, we have experiences, but we don't necessarily keep tallying our brains on what's going on. It's hard that way. Keep a journal. What went well on this date? What didn't I like? What did I like? And why? You know? And then after a few dates, maybe with the same person or different people, go back and look at it. Like, compare and see what's going on. And that will help guide your self-discovery and your self-reflection. Like, oh, I don't like that kind of girl, or I don't like this kind of dude, or I like these kind of activities, or I did that and I had never liked it before, but now I like it. Well, what was that about? Was it the person you were with, or was it the activity? That kind of thing. So data definitely helps, but you're like, how do I collect data on my dates? Write it down, you know what I'm saying? Because that self-discovery and reflection stuff is, man, you be like, self-discovery, what? Also, Zoe's book has these activities in them and really good exercises. So if you're one of those people like self-discovery, self-reflection, that's so vague. How am I supposed to do that? Zoe's book's amazing, and I cannot recommend it enough. And soon it will not be available in paperback. You'll only be able to get it electronically. So definitely order it today. You can go to iamzoewilliams.com, order the book. It's called How to Land the Relationship Dismount, How to Land the Dismount When Exiting a Toxic Relationship. It's a misleading title because you don't have to be in a toxic relationship to have this book, either leaving one or trying to leave one. It's also for people in good relationships, just to learn more about yourself and how to keep it good. So definitely go check it out. Every chapter has exercises at the end. you know, regarding whatever that chapter was about. So if you need help, which most of us do, in the actual activities, the exercises, the actual things I can do, the tangible things I can do to change and help, you know, regulate that self-reflection, that's the part. Because I hate any of that advice where it's like, be reflective, take time for yourself. Like, what does that even mean? What does that even look like? So I hate when people give you like non-tangible advice. Yeah, so, which that actually goes into number 7 and number 8. And that's probably the part that I want to reflect on here. I'll share a little personal story before I wrap up, then dating easier said than done. What advice would you give to single father looking to date? I was married now, I'm a widow, and I'm raising 2 daughters. I'm 29 years old and not used to meeting people online. How should I move forward? Okay, Erin, a few things. 1, I'm sorry to hear that. 2, the easier said than done part of dating, especially when you're just getting back to dating, is are you really ready to date? You know, and only you can really decide that. And are you more lonely than you are ready to date? Because that's the thing. Like, a lot of people go back to dating just because they're lonely, but they might not have healed the wounds that were, you know, there. You can heal your wounds within a relationship. Like, it's totally possible. It's totally doable. People do it all the time. But, you know, ideally you would start working on some of that pain and some of those wounds before you start, you know, engaging another human being in relationship. And so part of that would be like, do you really want to go back to dating, or do you just feel like you should? Or are you just lonely? And if it is you're lonely, make sure you just share that with whoever you start engaging with. You know, letting people know that you're a widow, or a widower, and that, you know, you're lonely and you're new to dating. And when you put that out there, it allows people to know, like, okay, it's kind of saying, like, I don't know what I'm doing. Give me grace. So, because that's what I tell people. Like, I'm 30 and this is the first time I've ever done this. Also, for me, there's an extra layer that I'm an addict in recovery, and so it's just like all these things to navigate. But I just be really honest up front. Like, give me grace. I know it's easy to give the advice to people when you're on the outside because you have a very neutral lens. But when it's you and you're experiencing it yourself, one, emotions get involved, you know, sexual tension gets involved, and it makes it harder to make these very, you know, clear decisions for yourself, decisive decisions for yourself, and even logical decisions for yourself. So that's where, like, having life coaches and a professional who's more neutral and can give you, you know, more clear, decisive advice is helpful sometimes, because they can take more logical advice. They take, like, the sexual tension and the emotion out of it, and they kind of help you navigate, like, that part. But you're still like, but I have emotions, I have sexual tension. So just being honest about where you're at with the dating process and giving yourself grace, which means, like, if it is you're just lonely, you know, just acknowledge that. It's not good or it's not bad. And then go from there. You know, acknowledge where you're at. Be honest with yourself so you can be honest with other people. Again, easier said than done, but that's step 1. Also, I'm 30 and I don't have kids in dating, and so just knowing dating with kids is always hard, because it's like you have to navigate, how long do I date this person before I introduce them to my kids? What's my expectation if I date someone? Like, and they could, you know, we get serious, and then, you know, do all that stuff. Expectations as a step parent. So, like I said to the young person, know your boundaries early and now before you start, so you can then present that to the person you're dating. Like, if you start dating and